in order to cultivate that relationship over time and to help not only that person potentially, but their 256 people, you have to look at it as like, I need to offer things out. It's valuable content in your newsletter. It's grabbing that cup of coffee for them when you meet and spending an extra $5. And that means something to a lot of people. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. If your intent starts with wanting to help people,
yep,
long term, you're going to win.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
Short term play. What can I get out of this? It's going to go nowhere.
Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and everything in between. Join us as we take you along our own brokerage building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of business experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Bricks and Risk. I'm Tim Garrity.
I'm Sean Mooney.
And today we're going to talk about a topic that's very near and dear to my heart as well as Sean's heart. It's relationships. And it's relationships in business. I know we've known each other for a long time.
Couple years.
But let's start with this, Sean. So you started your business from scratch.
Yep.
And you're a firm believer in relationships and building your business that way. Tell me first why you had that mindset when you started the insurance brokers.
Relationships. Nothing in the world will take the place of relationships. It's the foundation. It's the foundation of my business. It's the reason I started my business, kind of building my agency using relationships. I think for a couple of reasons is, number one, that's what I feel is the best business. It's
Agreed.
It's what we call the stickiest business. So in our case, it's going to be the business that hangs around the longest. And in addition to that, good relationships, building rapport with clients, with vendors, centers of influence. You're also going to be able to build relationships because those people are going to bring their network into your network. And so I've always felt that you find the right business, the best business, and that just breeds better business.
No, I agree. I've heard a statistic before, and the statistic goes like this, that each person on average knows 256 people, meaning each person has about 256 people on average within their network. So when you're thinking about relationships, like here's how I've always looked at it, because I agree with everything you're saying. This is how I built Copper Hill Real Estate as well. You don't need to send an email out to 10,000 people, because I'm not saying you can't do that and it's not effective, but it's not necessary. Because try and think of it, the way I look at it, it's quality over quantity. And this is also the approach to relationships. Let's say I have 100 relationships. I just have 100 people that I know from growing up, from high school, from college, from past jobs, old neighbors, just people I know, like people I've come across in life. We stay in touch, we hang out, professional or personal, it doesn't matter. And I know 100 people, and each one of those people knows 256 people. So by just knowing 100 people and focusing on that relationship with those 100, continuing that throughout with your marketing, whether it's email or mail or video, whatever it is you're doing, that's 25,000 people you're reaching. And this is also where I kind of agree with you. It's like you're thinking more long-term. You're not thinking, hey, I need 5,000 followers on Instagram. Not that hurts, but that's more, in my opinion, for branding. Like you're just trying to get exposure
to the masses.
Yeah. And maybe you've got 5,000 followers on social media, and you meet two new people and you gel. And then when that happens, guess what? Now you have 102 contacts. And each one of those new people knows 256 people themselves. So I've always found that statistic interesting because it gets you to think a little bit differently about, what's a good email list or how many contacts you have to have in your phone in order to build your business. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
So I guess to kind of dive a little bit more into that is isn't that how social media, the algorithms really work? So like if you're posting out and you have something on social media, you're not just posting to your network,
Right.
your followers. It's more going to that additional degree of your followers,
Yep. I would agree with that.
right? So, the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees, right?
Yeah.
So you're posting out, and by way of being connected to this particular person, you're kind of now have an entry point into that person's friends or family.
Yep.
And so the connection can be made that way.
Yeah. Agreed. Here's another example I'll give. So I do a lot of mentoring and training at my brokerage, Copper Hill. And one thing I've heard from new agents, so like let's say someone gets licensed, they're going to come work with Copper Hill, and I'm interviewing them to see if they're a good fit. Because again, it's about quality over quantity. That's how we look at our brokerage as well. We want people who believe in what we're doing and also look at building their business the same way that we do. So let's say this person comes in and we're talking, and one thing I've heard before is that person will say, I'm kind of mad I didn't get my license sooner. And I would say, well, why is that? And the person I'm thinking of said, because all my friends just bought houses and I wasn't able to help them. And I said, no, I understand that. That's valid. Try not to think as of your 5 or 10 or 20 friends buying houses as the way you're going to do well in real estate. Because here's my example to that. You didn't sell them their houses, but you're going to stay on top of them with email marketing or a letter or a drop off or a client event. Like, this is why relationships are important. You're just keeping the relationship going, because what will happen is those 5, 10, 20 people, they'll recommend their neighbor or their cousin or their coworker, or they'll go to a barbecue. I always use this example. They go to a barbecue and they're sitting there drinking a beer, and someone comes up, be like, you just bought a house, right? And yeah, I did. Okay, who'd you use? I used Tim Garrity. He was great. Do you think I could get his name and number? Like, we're looking, where does Tim work? And like, let's say it's even in a different area. But if the relationship is strong, that person will say, just talk to Tim. Tim knows Greater Philadelphia, and he'll be able to help you with anything you need. And if he can, he'll get you in the right direction. So, and then that's really the power of relationships. When I use that example to new licensees, I'm like, trying to think about it as that was your business to be had because they were your friend. Yes, it is a relationship, but try and think about cultivating that relationship now that they're homeowners. You want to stay in front of their 256 people. And if you can do that in a way where you're always top of mind, there's value, and they like getting whatever it is they get from you, whether it's, again, social media content on video or a letter or an email, there's lots of different ways to market, but they'll look at that and be like, Tim's a valuable person to know in real estate. And I'll always have that on my mind, because you're going to go out and people are going to ask for referrals. People ask me this all the time, whether I'm in real estate or not. They'll ask me all sorts of questions. And I'm sure you get this as well.
You become more than the real estate agent, right? It's you become the trusted advisor. You become the,
Right.
I don't know. It's like,
You're like the center point.
yeah,
You're like the connector.
yeah. Like, but it's weird because they're like, hey, I need a plumber. Like,
Right.
why are you coming to me,
Yep.
asking me? But it's because you have a proven track record with these friends, clients, family, you name it.
Yep.
And that track record is Tim's delivered for me.
Right.
I trust Tim.
Yep.
And that's kind of where it goes in a different direction with how valuable relationships are. Because I know, whatever business you're in, how important it is to build trust.
Yep.
And once you have people that trust you.
Yeah. Well, here's a great example. Let me use this one too. So you're in insurance.
Yep.
And I've been in an accident before.
Yep.
And yeah, a couple. So I've been in a couple accidents.
Right.
And I call you up and say, hey man, this is what happened.
Yeah.
And not only do I know you have my best interest in mind for being in this position, which again, whether you just bump bumpers or you scrape someone or you really bang into them, like everyone's riled up. It's like they're nervous, like everyone's like emotional, like what do we do? This is how much money is this going to cost? I'm late for my appointment, like whatever it is. And I'll always call you and say, hey, this happened. Like, what do I do? You always put me at ease and tell me, hey, this is what you should do because this happened to you. But what also is very valuable about that is I'll say, what am I supposed to do with my car? Like, where do I take my car? And you're like, here are like 2 great auto body places. Or you would say, like, do you know anyone first? It's like, maybe yes or no. Most people are like, no, like, I don't.
Yep.
I know where to get an oil change. I don't know where to fix my, my side door.
Yeah.
And relying on you for that is super important. And then on top of that, when the repairs are being made and things like that, it's like, how am I supposed to get around? And you're like, this is what you do. You have to figure out like a rental car and something like, and this is, another option for that. And this happens in my world too. This is like, here's a great example. I walked outside today and one of my neighbors was walking by with her dogs and she needs a general contractor. But I've been in this community now. I've only been there for a little over 2 years. And I send some marketing pieces out that I find are valuable to my neighbors that I don't really know. What's happening now is neighbors are coming out to me and say, do you have a roofer? Or do you have a general contractor for like a bathroom remodel? Or do you have a landscape architect? I like your landscaping. Like we did a rehab. Like I like what you did. Can I talk to that person? And like, let's do the landscape one, for example. I'll be like, hey, I have a couple. Like, what kind of job do you need? Is it something that's quick and easy, or is it something that's complicated and intricate? And like, back to your point about trust, like as you get good at not only building your relationships through your business, you start to build your vendor relationships by doing business with them. They're just as important as your clients. Because as you get good with vendors, most of the time you're vetting them personally, I find. Even if you're not, you're getting it through someone you trust. And then when you have them, you offer more value to your network because when they get in trouble, they're going to come to you and say, you're in insurance. Like I need someone for this. And you're going to be able to do that. And, would you agree with all that? Like,
yeah. And especially with me, I just had a claim.
Yeah.
I haven't had a claim in 10 years. Right. What do I do? Right. And it's a time where like, it's frenetic, right? You're standing on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Cops behind you trying to get a report. The person's over here. So you're trying to kind of calm a situation and let them know we'll take care of it.
Yep.
I had 2 today, and one was an auto claim, one was a home claim. Home claim was there's a sewer pipe leaking in my living room.
Yeah.
And it's like, the person's like, what do I do? Who do I call?
Right.
And it's like, the ability to like stand in and deliver for that client.
Yep.
What's the value in that? You can't measure it.
Yep.
Right. It's not something that you can quantify, but I would say it's almost invaluable. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, so I said, all right, listen, I'm going to call the insurance company. I'm going to get the claim set up. And here's the vendor you're going to use to come out, clean it, dry it, and fix the pipe and do whatever we need.
Right.
And the relief. Like,
yeah.
It's
oh my gosh. I mean, you're talking about someone's living room.
Yeah.
So it's like you're their savior.
But to go from that like panic mode.
Yep.
And to have the ability to like, all right, this is the game plan. This is what we're going to do. Walk them through it. Deliver.
Yep.
And absolutely turn that panic into like a relief situation. That's where these relationships grow and they foster new business, new clients, referrals, and relationship gold.
Yep. No, I totally agree. Hey everyone, this is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host. But don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth, so if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the BNR word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show. I'm going to take it another step. So we're talking about like why relationships are important. We obviously agree. Both of our businesses have been built through relationships. But let's take it a step further. So let me go back to that agent that said, "Hey, all my friends just bought homes. Like, I'm not going to make any money now. Like, I feel like I'm late to the game."
Yeah.
And I'm trying to coach that person. You're not. Like, you're never too late to the game. I got into real estate when I was 30. It's like a lot of people had bought homes. What are some of the things that you do? I mean, we can call it from like a marketing standpoint or a business building standpoint for your most trusted relationships. Like, do you have your own tried and true methods or method of communication with them? Do you like doing multiple things? Like, give me a couple examples as to how you keep those relationships strong through your business.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing, I want to go back to what you said about that new agent you were working with.
Yep.
A lot of times what you'll find is that new person who's new to the business, new to, getting their, just getting started,
Yep.
they think they missed out on, 3 deals.
Yeah.
And it's like, I liken it to like the micro versus the macro, like, oh, these 3 deals. Well, those 3 deals could have helped, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have the right mindset going into it, that the opportunity is way greater than those 3 missed deals.
Yeah. Agreed.
You have to have that willingness to come in and see it as just massive opportunity. Like your business, my business there's really no ceiling.
Yeah.
To
sky's the limit.
Yeah. And so I think that's important, just having the right mindset for that new employee, that new salesperson, to kind of have that understanding that it's 1 person, 2 person, 3 person. That's not going to make your year. It's not going to make your career.
Right.
It can help, but it's a long-term play.
Agreed.
Coming on board.
All right. So, and I agree with all that. So like, what do you prefer? Like, if you had to pick one thing that you do for your relationships and you do it really well, you're like, hey, this is like the one thing I do that I know they appreciate. It works for me marketing wise, whether it's cost or time or whatever. And I know it's given me business through my relationships. What would you say your one thing is that you're big on?
It's got to be newsletter.
Nice. Email newsletter?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
For us, that's what it has to be. Can you point to it? The way they track it too sometimes is open rates.
Yeah.
You can see kind of who's opening it, how many people are opening it.
Exactly. Yeah, you want the analytics.
Right. How many people are sharing it.
Yep.
All of that. So I think from a touch point standpoint, I think that's the most effective way to kind of stay in front of your clients in doing that.
How often do you do your newsletter?
Quarterly.
Okay, so only 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Nice. Would you say it takes you a while to do your newsletter? Like, are you big on like giving it the right look, having a lot of valuable content? Are you like, I just want it to be a touch point, have it be a little bit more generic, maybe about real estate or your home or something, or it's seasonal or whatever, if it's quarterly?
It's a casual touch point.
Okay.
It's nothing. Try to stay away from like business related stuff.
Yep.
And just keeping it, more of like a friendly advisor. Yeah. How about you guys?
With us, I'm basically the same. I would say I would take it a step further. So an email newsletter, I would agree, is probably one of the most valuable things you can do. It's one of the most efficient things you can do. It's got one of the best ROIs. I mean, you could go to MailChimp tomorrow and have 500 or less contacts and you can do it for free.
Yep.
Like, think about that.
Yeah.
Like, you can literally have marketing for your business. I don't know how many times you can send it a month these days. I mean, I haven't been using MailChimp for a little bit, but MailChimp is a great one to start with. And, we do it once a month. And I had always done it myself when I was an agent, like even before Copper Hill Real Estate. And that was when I had my own personal brand, which was called Philly Urban Living. And that was the brand I used to identify myself as an agent, because it let people know, hey, I live in the city. I focus on the city. I still help people in the suburbs. but that gave me kind of like a foundation for the information I wanted to provide, the value I wanted to provide. So my newsletters are very similar to the ones we do today with Copper Hill, where it's usually like a news thing. So it's either curated or like a blog post. We'll throw a couple listings on there because again, people love that. They love looking at real estate. So we do that. And then we'll usually do one on lifestyle, which could be anything. It could be food, it could be travel, it could be history, which is big in Philadelphia. So that's how I've always looked at it. The one thing that I'll take beyond that to just give our audience like another idea is really in-person networking. And like people are like, well, how am I supposed to do that? Like, do I go to an event with like 100 people?
Well, let's back up. So as we go down this road, we can talk about NWPN days.
We can.
Yeah, it's just
Sean is hearkening back to this is probably about 6-7 years ago was when we stopped doing it. But for 5 years, we were in our own organic homegrown networking group that I started. You were a member of. Yep. It was called NWPN, the Northwest Philadelphia Network. And I was inspired by going out to the big networking groups like BNI and LaTip.
Yep.
And I didn't like it.
Yep.
I'm like, this is too strict. Like it's too pushy and it was kind of expensive. So, if you commit to it, can you get business? Of course you can. But I looked at it, I was like, I'm not looking to put all my eggs in this basket. Like I want to do in-person networking, with a good ROI, not spending a couple grand a year. And I also don't want to do it every week. I want to do it maybe once a month or once every 2 months. So when we started NWPN, it really started with a Craigslist ad. And I just said, yo, who wants to go get coffee?
For all of you out there that know what Craigslist is.
Right, exactly. Does it even exist anymore? I'm not quite sure. But the funny thing is I just put it out there and I said, Manayunk Roxborough Networking Group, who wants to get coffee? And we'll get coffee in either of those two areas. And 2 people showed up and I didn't know them. And then we met. And then the next week, we said, or the next month, I said, bring 1 person each. And the next month we had 6. So, and again, then 3 would leave and 4 would come in. And it ended up being, after 5 years, about 30 paying members.
Yeah.
It was about $10 a month. It wasn't anything crazy. We did monthly meetings. They were organized. They had food. They had
social. We went out. We did.
We had the holiday parties.
Charity stuff too.
Did charity stuff. And again, that's definitely a way to do it. But let me take it more like the simple approach. Let's go over the new agent again, looking for ideas. Like, how am I going to help this person over the big brokerage in Center City or in the suburbs that's like, do this, do that. And I would say, what kind of person are you? So I'll use you. It's be like, what's your personality? Do you like going into a room with 100 people? You prefer to be one-on-one? Like, what's your preference, Sean?
Me?
Yeah.
I like the one-on-one.
Yeah.
Small groups.
And most do, I find. And that's good because for that networking piece, and if you're one-on-one, think of it as, again, you're going quality over quantity. And with that meeting, you're going to want other business-minded people that are already in your network. So, someone that is in the auto body business that you do business with all the time. And you could easily just be like, hey, let's just go out and get a cup of coffee on Friday. I haven't seen you for a while. And you're just catching up. I mean, you're literally like, how's your family? Like, how's business? How's life? Because you like this person and you're really just trying to catch up. And as well as I know, when we catch up with more of a quality meeting, business always comes up because people are going to say, how's business for you? Like, what are you working on? And then it'll almost like go in their mind. They're just like, you do business in the suburbs? Like someone, Tim, I know you do business in the city. Do you business in the suburbs? I'm like, almost 50% of Copper Hill's business is in the suburbs. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And now when they're leaving that meeting, they're like, okay, anytime I have a suburban opportunity, I'm going to think of Tim.
And I think the important part is if you're in the same room with that person who's like-minded, and I'm this way, I'm always thinking, how can I help that person?
Yes.
And if it's 2 of you, I am constantly, I'm just racking my brain as to like, who can I get you in front of? Who's your ideal client? Who can I connect with you that would help you?
Yeah.
And if you have someone that's entrepreneurial or a business owner or just someone looking to build their network or build relationships in business, I mean, that connection is made a lot of times.
Yeah. No, do you remember? So when we had NWPN, we actually had business cards with our logo
Yeah.
that Brent did, which Brent also did Bricks and Risk. Um, it said underneath the logo.
Can we drop his?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we
Brent,
can.
go here for
Yeah.
Brent Bush Design.
Brent Bush Design, ladies and gentlemen. So on the business card, I believe it said "Give to Get."
Yeah.
And that was a general philosophy. That's everything you just talked about, meaning when you go into a networking group with 20, 30 people or 100 people, you don't know, a big one, big formal one in the city or in the suburbs, like Chamber of Commerce or anything like that. Or you go into a one-on-one, I agree with you. You're trying to look at it as like, what can I do to make your business or your life a little bit better? And that's going to come through the conversation. So like when you're just catching up with that person and they're like, "Oh, how's the family? Family's great. We're going to Disney World in like 6 months. We're excited for it." It's like, you know what? We just went to Disney World. Would you like my Disney World planner? Like, again, I know that sounds like it's not going to make a difference, but that's if you have that philosophy in mind where it's like someone is doing something and if you know something that you feel like they may already have that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's the thought that counts. I mean, that's a legit statement with any kind of relationship. And networking is no different, that you're just trying to help them out. And do you know what? Even if you get nothing, that's not what it's about. It's about taking care of your relationships, taking care of your people, giving things like giving to charities or giving community service, like all these things. Like when people do it, they feel great.
Yeah.
Like when someone writes 100 or 1,000 or $1,000,000 if you're loaded to a charity
Yep.
and says, "I want to give to this cause because I love this cause." Like you feel great. You're just like, I didn't spend it on something that was for me and my family only. I spent this on a cause
Yeah.
or a mission. And it's the same thing. It doesn't have to be monetary. Giving someone a good connection can add value in lots of different ways.
And I think the opposite rings true as well. So if you went into our NWPN group
Yep.
and your whole mindset, just like a lot of these BNIs, LaTips, and these other groups, if your frame of reference for these groups is, I'm joining, what can I get out of this?
How many leads will I get?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to go nowhere.
Right.
Because what's going to happen is you're going to get in not lending any value to any other group member. They're going to know it. And then you're just going to be so let down because nobody's going to be giving you the leads that you want, the referrals that you want, the introductions that you want, because you're only in it for your own motivation.
Yeah. And it's funny to that point. Like people have said this before, like people can sense the salesperson, meaning someone that's only going in there with their own intentions in mind. I need my business cards because I need the leads that I'm going to get. They're going to need to contact me. And again, there's nothing wrong with that thought. Like that's a good thought. Have your business cards because yes, are you networking to help grow your business? You are. But I think if you reverse engineer it and you look at it as like, I'm going to give out my business cards so that someone can contact me if they need something, then your mindset will shift. You'll feel less pressure by doing that because you'll walk in and you're just going to be yourself. There's nothing to gain out of this except for relationships. And that's what networking is all about. It's like even that the one-on-one especially is like you already have that relationship. Let's say, there's a saying in business, first you got to get to know someone, then you got to get to like them, and then you can trust them. And, when you get started in insurance, you get started in real estate, you have a lot of people that know you and a lot of people that like you. But if you're new, not a lot of people want to trust you, even if you have some experience, because they're almost looking at it as like, I don't want to mess up the friendship. Here's another great story I'll end with. when I first got into real estate, I kind of had a similar thought to that new agent. Like, hey, like, how am I,
Yeah.
I'm older, I already own real estate. Like people I know already bought houses. So that thought crossed my mind. But in the beginning, like you, I did email marketing. I did in-person networking. I did all sorts of just general like socializing, like things like that to stay in front of people. And, when I got in and I was 30 years old and doing that, like there's always this thought in your mind. You're like, how am I going to help people without feeling like I'm trying to sell them? And it's like, it's a natural thought to have that. But what I will say to that is, don't worry about the selling will take care of itself, because even if it's someone that you barely know and you don't even know if you like each other yet, or if it's someone that you already have trust, like you have to look at it, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And in order to cultivate that relationship over time and to help not only that person potentially, but their 256 people, you have to look at it as like, I need to offer things out. It's valuable content in your newsletter. It's, it's grabbing that cup of coffee for them when you meet and spending an extra $5. And that means something to a lot of people. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. If your intent starts with wanting to help people,
Yep.
long term, you're going to win.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
Short term play. What can I get out of this? It's going to go nowhere. Much harder to build your network.
I would agree. So we're going to end off on that note, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Bricks and Risk, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all BNR episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.